Oh, okay, here we go. Let's have a look and see. There's an interesting halacha over here, which is something which may come as a bit of a surprise. But the halacha is that a person should not act in a disrespectful way in front of the Shabbos candles. Right? And one of the sort of like, one of the descriptions what perhaps disrespectful would be is that children shouldn't run around, naked in front of the Shabbos candles. It's considered to be disrespectful. Ad kedei kach that in modern, in contemporary halachic works, they talk about not changing young kids, not changing their diapers in front of the Shabbos candles, because again it's considered to be something which is a lack of respect. The halacha is also applicable to Havdalah as well, the Havdalah candles, but because Havdalah candles normally are light for a much shorter amount of time, so it's not so much of a problem. But it's something which is it's something to keep an eye on, especially when you Mitzvah Hashem, you have your own family. And you've got the Shabbos candles, and the kids are running around doing all kinds of ridiculous things, as kids tend to do. It's just, something to keep in mind.
Well, my kids won't be doing that.
No, obviously they'll be, role models, role models for, social services booklets. What do you do if a lady is blind, Rahman al-Islam, right? So if she can't see, what happens then with regards to lighting the candles? So Mishnah Brura says that it would be better that her husband make the bracha over the candle lighting. However, if she's by herself, then it's okay. She can make the bracha even though she can't see the candle light. What's the logic behind it is that other people also benefit from the light, and therefore she can light the candles and make the bracha because other people are going to get benefit. Even if she's not going, even if there's going to be no one else around together with her on that Friday night, she can still light the candles with a bracha, because you never know, somebody may come into the apartment, and the minute somebody comes in, they're going to get benefit from the light that's been lit. Okay, what do you do? Where do you light your candles if you're eating your meal in one place and you're going home to sleep? So let's say somebody has invited you out. It might be a bit difficult to relate to this scenario, but somebody's invited you out to eat the meal with them. And you're going to go back home. After the meal, you're going to go back and sleep at home, but you're going to eat the meal over there together with the other family.
Yeah, I had this actually most of the time when I lived by myself in Bournemouth. I'd go out for Friday night dinner. Obviously didn't stay.
Right, so what did you do?
I didn't actually light because I'm kind of anxious about it.
Oh, good. Anyway, the truth of the matter is that as a single bod, you can get around the problem easily by just asking your hostess to keep you in mind when she comes to light the candles. But if you're, Mitzvah Hashem, once you're married and you've found somebody who's silly enough to invite you around to their house,
You can find somebody silly enough to marry you.
Good point. This is getting a bit difficult, right? But, okay, we're going to do our best to try to believe in this scenario. But in Mitzvah Hashem, no, for sure. Mitzvah Hashem, you'll find somebody who's silly enough to marry you, and you'll find people in your community who are silly enough to invite you to come and eat the meal together with them. So there are different approaches over here. One of them is that that you should light in your home, with one of two ways of dealing with that. Either you stay at home long enough, not you, perhaps your wife stays at home long enough that she's going to get benefit from the light. It gets dark outside, and then she's going to make her way, after you finish davening, she's going to make her way to meet you at the host's house. Or that you make sure that the candles are going to stay alight for when you come back. Right? So when you come back, you're going to get benefit from the light, and then that's okay. Otherwise, the other alternative is to light where you're eating. Now, there is an opinion, a very strong opinion inside the halacha that you should light. That's really where you should light your Shabbos candles. The place that you're eating, we spoke about that before, the idea of shalom bayit, that it adds additional, harmony and additional pleasure, oineg, to the meal. So the more light there is, the better it is. But if that's the case, if somebody is lighting Shabbos candles with their host and not lighting their Shabbos candles at home, so then you should at least leave on electric lights at home so that there should be light when you come back, again, to tap into this idea of oineg. What's the idea? You need to get benefit from your Shabbos candles, right? And benefit. What does benefit mean? Benefit is simple. It's just an inyan of of having light. You don't need more than that. You really don't. It's not you've got to get warmth from it or you've got to have a lot of light. It's just something there that gives you a little bit of light. And if that means that if you can keep the candles burning until when you come home, then that's great. And if not, then you need to make sure that you light where you're eating and then leave some electric lights on to make sure they're there when you come back. However, there's of course an addendum to all of this. Yesterday we spoke about bringing Shabbos early, and we spoke about the idea that the earliest that you can light your Shabbos candles is from Plaga Mincha. Right, again, what is Plaga Mincha? Plaga Mincha is 2/3 of the way into the afternoon.
From midday.
Sorry?
Is that 2/3 of the way from halachic midday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so what's the problem? The problem is like this. If you're going to go to your host's house before Plaga Mincha, so it's a problem. You can't light the candles anyway. So at that point, it would be better to light the candles in your host's house rather than lighting your candles at home because it's before Plaga Mincha anyway. Just an interesting thing over here. Again, what happens? So, your wife goes off to the host, and is she supposed to make a bracha now over the candles or not supposed to make a bracha over the candles? Because the bracha that's being made over the candles by the hostess is the one that's really going to bring the oinig Shabbos, the special delight for Shabbos over here. So according to some opinions, it would be better for the person lighting the candles to hear the bracha from the hostess and answer Amen, and then rather than say the bracha herself. But if she does recite the bracha, then that's fine. It's not a bracha levatola per se, right? What is bracha levatola? You're not making a bracha in vain. It's a little bit of a doubt as to what one's supposed to do. Now there's a general rule with regards to making brachas, which says like this: Safek brachas lahakel, which means that if you're not sure about a bracha, then you can assume that you've said it and you shouldn't say it again. So let's say, for example, the bottle of water over here. You all of a sudden you want to take a drink, you can't remember, did I make a bracha or didn't I make a bracha? Mm-hmm. So you work on the premise that you did, and you don't make another bracha unless you're certain that you didn't.
Interesting.
Right?
I would have thought of the other way around.
Yeah. It is a little counterintuitive, it's true. The only other alternative for something like a drink that you could do is you could wait half an hour, and then once the half an hour is up, you can then make a bracha again over the water, and then you're okay, right?
So it's worse to make 2 brachas than none at all.
Yeah.
Why?
Now again, what's the pshat? The pshat is like this: if you know that you haven't made a bracha, then you're obligated to make a bracha the next time you drink. The question over here is if you're not sure.
Why would it be bad to make 2?
Because if you've made a bracha already, then the second bracha is what's called a bracha levatola, which is a bracha in vain. Now, there's a concept in the halacha which is called a chazaka, right? The chazaka says a chazaka is something is consistent, right? So if you consistently make brachot, then even if you don't remember making the bracha, the assumption is that you've made it. If the assumption is that you've made it, then if you make another bracha now, that's going to be a bracha levatola. It's a bracha in vain.
Can we ever over-bless?
Yeah, sure.
Why?
Why can you over-bless? Because you need to when you come to bless, you need to be blessing according to the way that the halacha defines.
Yes, but I'm talking about from the perspective of why are we saying a blessing?
Yeah, good, 100%. So
surely it's not a terrible thing to say thank you once more.
what's the problem? The problem over here, the problem with the blessing, problem in inverted commas, with the blessing is it has God's name in it. Mm-hmm. And using God's name, unless it's being done under, proper controlled conditions, is something that we're not supposed to be doing. And that includes the bracha over here, which means that it's true that it would be nice to be able to make a bracha every time you drink, to make another bracha. Why not? It's revealing more of God's majesty down here each time. But the rabbis came along and said that bracha reciting has to follow pretty rigid rules, right? So if you're talking about something which is a liquid, so within half an hour, you don't make another bracha. So let's say that bottle of water that you've got over here, if that bottle of water is maybe it could last you till lunchtime. Mm-hmm. If you're taking sips, at least every 29 minutes, then you could make a bracha in the beginning of the day like you just made now, and you could make the after bracha before you go to lunch. You finish a bottle of water, you make after bracha then, which is several hours later on. If a person runs over 30 minutes, then they've got to make another bracha.
So I have to time myself from when I say the bracha.
Yeah. You need to know that Judaism is a religion which leaves no holes anywhere. Now that's for the good and for the bad. It makes it a very complex religion. It makes it a very detailed religion, but it also means that that's the more difficult dimension of it, right? And that means, for example, when you drink, you've got to remember, when did I last drink? How many minutes have gone past? And you've got to keep everything in your mind. But on the other hand, it also means that everything has been taken into account, which means there's no concept over here of gosh, should I make another bracha on my water? And the halacha saying, well, I don't know. Maybe not. Right? Everything is covered. Every detail has been taken care of. And that means that what we have to do is we just have to follow the rules. And if we follow the rules, of course, then we're doing what God wants us to do, and that's gonna draw us closer to God in the best possible way. Which means that it may sound more logical, it may sound more spiritual to recite a blessing every time you want to take a drink, to recite another blessing. But the rabbis are coming along and saying like this, they're not denying that it might be a more spiritual thing to do. But there's a practical dimension, a practical application to halacha that has to be taken into account. And that's what the rabbis are doing. The rabbis are not leaving it up to us to decide how we're going to go about making brachas. Rather, the rabbis are saying this is the way that it needs to be done.
I'm wondering whether the concepts of brachas and prayer outside a minyan, it's a personal connection with Hashem. Therefore, my inclination is to question why would it be so strictly monitored by a third party?
I mean, first of all, the simple answer is because everything is strictly monitored in order to make sure that we do everything correctly.
But what I mean, who's to say the correct way for me to talk with God?
Oh, so here you go, right? So what do we do? Let's take prayer. Prayer is a good example, right? Prayer was introduced by the men of the Great Assembly well over 2,000 years ago. Maybe I don't want to pray like that. Maybe that's not what's expressing what's in my heart. So first of all, inside of the prayer that the rabbis have introduced, there's a certain amount of flexibility, right? But how about this for a scenario? A person davens the Amidah and then decides that he really didn't daven it well enough. I wasn't concentrating. I'd like to daven it again. Can you do that? No, because the obligation is for a person to pray. You have to pray 3 times a day. Once that prayer has been taken care of, then that means that for that, whatever it is, say mincha, right? A person davens mincha and he doesn't daven it with the correct kavanah and he's upset now and he wants to daven again. Can he daven the Amidah again? No. What he can do though is he can daven any other different kinds of prayers in its stead in order to try to make up. So for example, he can compose his own prayer and say, listen, God, I feel terrible. I just prayed mincha and I don't think I prayed very well. And I want you to know that if I could, I would pray it again, but take this prayer in its stead. Right? A person can sit down and a person can recite Tehillim, Psalms. The beauty of the book of Psalms is that there's something there for everybody. A person could do that instead. There are lots of avenues that allow a person to express themselves in their own unique and completely unique fashion, even though even though you can't use the formal method of prayer. Right? So, for example, I'll tell you, I met a rabbi a long time ago, many years ago. He told me that when he's overwhelmed with emotion, when he's overwhelmed with something beautiful has happened in his home, and a child is getting married or a bar mitzvah, whatever it is, he tries to take those emotions and he tries to tie them up and give them back to God. And he says that when he feels himself overwhelmed with emotion, he'll sit down and he'll recite the Shema. Now the Shema is less problematic than the Amidah because the Shema is words of Torah. You can recite the Shema all day long. Right? So you can take the beauty of the Shema and you can dedicate that to God and you can wrap that up in your emotions and you've just done something very beautiful. Even though you davened the Shema this morning, you can daven it again right now. But there are certain prayers which we can't do that with. The same is true with blessings. Blessings are coming to us in a certain way. This is the way they need to be done. The rabbis, the rabbis, Chazal, who laid down the halachas of all of these things, right? They knew what they were doing, and they understood perfectly well that it could be that there would be people who would prefer to make brachas more often. But the truth of the matter is that human nature is such that if you made a bracha every time you wanted to drink, then the chances are that you would find it all rather restrictive. I'll tell you more than that. If the rabbi said, listen, you know what, you can recite a bracha whenever you want when it comes to drinking, whenever you feel overcome with a spiritual need, you can make a bracha over a drink. I think what we'll find is that most people probably wouldn't make brachas over drinks at all, because how often do you feel like that? It's a problem, it really is. Along came the men of the Great Assembly, they said like this. Up until the destruction of the first temple, there was no formal prayer the way that we have it today. It was really avodah shebelev. It came out of your heart. And you could just stop and pray. With the destruction, the build-up to the destruction of the first temple, the spiritual level of the Jewish people sank. Sinking meant, one of the practical dimensions of that was that people were saying, okay, you know what, I don't feel like praying right now. So I'll pray, whenever I get that need again, whenever I get that feel again, I'll pray then. And it could be that a person may not pray all day, or week, or month, right? So along came the men of the Great Assembly, and they said like this, no, listen, you're making a fundamental mistake. We're obligated to pray. We have to pray. That's our obligation. What we're going to do is we're going to make it easier for you. We're going to give you the text so that all you have to work on, all in inverted commas, all you have to work on is saying it in the correct way. Otherwise, it just wouldn't happen, right? And the same is applicable with everything, brachas as well, the same thing, right? They're coming along and they're saying, look, we're telling you how to do this, so that all you have to do now is work on how you say it, and not to deal with whether to say it or not. Oh, here's an important halacha over here, actually. We spoke about, somebody who's eating in a different place, so the wife goes off to the host house, and she's lit the candles in her own home. So they're going to stay alight until she comes back, and she's going to get benefit when they come back from their Suda. They're going to get benefit from the candles. However, if you remember what we said yesterday, she makes a stipulation, which means that she says that I'm not bringing in Shabbos right now because I want to be able to get to wherever I'm going to. Let's say you're driving down to your friends for Friday night, and then you'll walk back home after the Suda. So it's important that when she gets to where she's going, that she should be makabel, she should accept upon herself Shabbos, verbally, right? Even though she's not lighting the candles because she's already lit them at home, but nevertheless, she should make a verbal, announcement that I'm now accepting upon myself the sanctity of Shabbos. That way, it's as if she lit the candles over here, but she's bringing in Shabbos in a different place, and the two now become connected to each other.
She could say that out loud in English.
She could say it out. Yes, she can say it in English, and she can say it out loud. If she wants to, she doesn't want to say it, out loud. So maybe she's a little bit, a little bit embarrassed about it. Whatever, she can say it just as an undertone, but she should verbalize it. It should be said. It should be said, right? Now, there's an extra dimension over here, something called Tosefet Shabbat. What is Tosefet Shabbat? Like its name denotes, Tosefet Shabbat means that we bring in Shabbos early, and we add on. Tosefet means to add something on, right? When you go to a restaurant, you have Tosafot. Tosafot are the side dishes, right? Tosafot in the Gemara is, again, the additional after Rashi, the additional commentary after Rashi. We have something
Is it from the
called...
word musaf?
Sorry?
Is it similarly coming from the musaf, is the word musaf coming from the same?
Soft, maybe, right? It
Musaf.
certainly shares some letters over there. What is musaf? Yeah, musaf is an additional something extra, right? That's why it's called the additional service, whatever it's called. Yeah. So there's a concept in the halacha of Tosefet Shabbos, which means what? I need to bring in Shabbos earlier than it really comes in. That's one of the reasons why the latest time that we bring in Shabbat is sunset. But most people bring in Shabbat earlier than that. We spoke about that the other day, right? Lighting candles 18 minutes before sunset and lighting candles over here 40 minutes before sunset. So the idea of Tosefet Shabbos is that we want Shabbos so much that we're going to add more of it into, we're going to steal a little bit of Friday afternoon and turn that into Shabbos. When the lady is being makabel on herself, I now accept upon myself the sanctity of Shabbos, she should do it early enough that there is Tosefet Shabbat involved over there as well, that she's adding in a little bit of the weekday into her Shabbos as well. Okay, what do you do in a place where you don't have, it's not possible to light candles, right? So you're in a public area, hotel, hospital, dormitory, right? They don't want you lighting candles over here in the dormitory, and it's a perfectly valid concern. It really is. What are you going to do? You can't have somebody lighting. Can you imagine somebody in the hotel room lighting their Shabbos candles? It's not. It doesn't work. So here in Israel, Baruch Hashem, the hotels are kosher and the hotels are Jewish. So lighting candles is normally done. They normally do it either next to or in the dining room, which is a great place to do it because that's where you're eating. But what do? You end up in a hotel, not in Israel, and they're not going to let you light. It's not possible for you to light, not in your room, and not in the lobby, and not in the dining hall, nowhere, right? So what are you supposed to do? So you can use the electric lights, and they can be your Shabbos candles instead. Again, where's the best place to use it? Either in your room or in the dining hall, if they'll let you switch the lights on and off over there. I'm not sure. But in all events, it is possible to use electric lights when there aren't any regular candles to use in their stead. Now, it's a machloikes, there's a disagreement amongst the various authorities about whether a bracha should be made over here or not. According to the Ashkenazi approach, a bracha can be made over lighting electric lights instead of candles on Shabbos. For the Sfardim, they tend to be more machmir, they're more stringent, and they say you shouldn't make a bracha. The simplest thing to do, if you've got Ashkenazi and Sephardi people lighting candles together and they can only use electric candles, to allow the Ashkenazi to recite the bracha for the Sephardi, she should answer Amen, and then that will take care of the obligation.
Can you get like electric Shabbos candles? Is that something you can buy?
So they used to have them. I don't know if they still sell them. When I was when I was a kid, they had them. The problem is like this: the lechatchila, the best way to fulfill the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles is by using candles, or even better, olive oil. When you're not lighting candles and you're lighting only electric lights, that's what's called a b'di'eved. B'di'eved is you're not doing it in the best way. Can a person go and buy electric candles in order to light them because they are concerned about health, they're concerned about safety and leaving candles alight? I would say like this. I would say under normal circumstances the answer is probably no. But, when you get back home, ask your, a COR, competent Orthodox rabbi, and see what he says. Maybe he'll say yes, or maybe he'll say that it would be better for you to ask your hostess to keep you in mind and to make sure that the electric lights are on when you come back, and use the combination of those two rather than use electric candles. Again, there's a custom, because the ladies took upon themselves the obligation and the responsibility of lighting Shabbos candles. So there's a custom that women light Shabbos candles when they're not home, even though their husbands and children may be home, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, a lady, let's have a nice happy scenario. A lady's in hospital because she just gave birth, and it's Shabbos, so she should light Shabbos candles in the hospital, and her husband and the family will light Shabbos candles at home, right? And that's okay.
Can she not light Shabbos candles and have them in mind?
So it really it depends on who is where and what's going on, right? It might be better, depending on the scenario, it might be better for the family to have her in mind rather than the other way around. Mm-hmm. Just one thing over here. Let's say she's gone away for Shabbos or whatever it is, right? And family members are lighting candles at home. So when the mother lights her Shabbos candles wherever she is, she needs to keep in mind that she's not been exempted from her obligation by the candles that were lit in her home. Just something else to keep in mind. There's a minig that in Mitzvah Hashem you should experience this minig, this custom. Well, it won't be very soon, but soon in Mitzvah Hashem. That after a woman gives birth to her first child, so she doesn't light the candle. Her husband lights the candles for her. That's because she needs to rest. And she shouldn't be rushing around and trying to do these things.
How long for?
Just for the first Shabbos, but
That's a minhag.
That's a minhag, yeah. Which means if she wants to light candles, she can light candles. I know that my wife, after our first child, she was very excited to light candles. You get to light the extra candle, and she certainly didn't want to give up the opportunity of being able to light the candles. Okay, a yeshiva bocher who is staying in yeshiva and perhaps eating by his parents' house. So he's learning locally, but he wants to be home. He wants to be back in the yeshiva. He's got a very intense chavrusa on Friday night after the Suda. He doesn't want to miss it. So the lighting that's taking place at home is fine. That will fulfill his obligation. He doesn't have to light with anybody else.
What about I'll be going and staying with my aunt and uncle in Israel, who's got over the next few weeks for Shabbos. When she lights the Shabbos candles, she's lighting them for her home and for her husband. But would it include?
She should keep you in mind. Ask her to keep you in mind, which I'm sure she probably will anyway. But
it might be rude to ask her that.
Huh?
It might be rude to ask her that.
I don't think so. If you're concerned that it might upset her, or it might be a little bit of a sensitive thing,
an obvious thing to say,
So I think then the answer is to if you stand next to her while she's lighting the candles, then for sure she'll be keeping you in mind. True. Okay, you know what? I think we're going to stop over here. I think we're done. We're done with the halachas of candle lighting, and Mitzvah Hashem. Oh, today's Thursday, right? So tomorrow's the best day of the week because I don't have to come in. And in Mitzvah Hashem on Sunday we'll start the halachas of Kiddush. Okay. Which again, that's going to be, I guess, for us, it's going to be a little bit more practical, because candle lighting,
That'll be good.